Can you please identify the victim of this crime?
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained.
True or false? I did nothing, you did everything, and I am the one committing the criminal act. Is that correct? For this crime to exist requires me to do nothing and for you to do everything. And this is short, so true or false? All I have to do to be accused of being a criminal, taken all the way to the jury, is absolutely nothing. Is that true or false?
Objection.
Sustained. I take you on your word that you are not video recording or recording these proceedings, but it is disconcerting with the camera in your pocket and facing out. That would be just don't want the jurors to be worried about whether or not they're being recorded. So
No problem. Totally understand.
Imagine stepping into a courtroom with nothing but a pocket full of YouTube legal wisdom and the confidence of a guy who thinks he's smarter than the system. That's exactly what happened when this self-proclaimed sovereign citizen decided to represent himself live in front of a jury, caught driving without ID or insurance. He tries to argue his way out using buzzwords from internet rabbit holes. To top it off, he narrates the ordeal in his own voice, giving us a front row seat to his bizarre internal monologue. Spoiler, it's as cringeworthy as you'd expect. The judge, though clearly unimpressed, keeps things surprisingly composed. Strap in.
you swear from tell truth, the whole truth, and the truth.
Yes, I do.
All right. Please have a seat. And if you would please state your name and spell your last name for the record.
You're heading back to Kitsap County, and please continue. How did you come into contact with the defendant?
We were driving northbound in the outside lane of Highway 16 from basically the Gig Harbor area. We were very close to entering back into Kitsap County, and I noticed in behind me in the inside lane of travel a white Ford dually pickup truck overtaking me at a really high rate of speed. And we were still in Pierce County at that time. And I increased my speed up to about 70 miles an hour and saw that the vehicle was still overtaking me from behind. And at that point in time, what I did was I activated my rear emergency lights in my vehicle, which are red and blue lights, as kind of a warning to the person driving the pickup truck that they needed to slow down. Joel that was driving the pickup truck, and he gave me a thumbs up with his right thumb and continued by me.
Oh, you little peasant. You gave me a thumbs up and thought you could pass me on the freeway?
And as he was pulling away from me in the inside lane, that's when I activated my radar in the same direction, moving mode with the front antenna, and observed his vehicle speed to be 71 miles per hour, and it was locked at the unit. The defendant immediately asked me if there was an emergency. And I explained to him that, again, the reasons for the traffic stop. And he explained, so the stop is based solely for money at that point in time. I told him no, the stop was about safety, and requested his driver's license, registration, and proof of insurance.
And so after you requested that information, what happened then?
He basically told me that he wasn't going to answer any legal questions without an attorney.
Were you prepared to inflict violence in an act of discovery?
Require you to rephrase that question.
Were you prepared to inflict property damage in an act of discovery?
I guess the state is just a little confused by the question.
Same. Rephrase the question.
Did you testify that you were prepared to break out the window of my property?
Yes, I did.
Okay. So were you prepared to break out the window in an act of discovering information for the purposes of collecting money?
Objection.
Sustained.
Were you prepared to break out the window for information that would make it easier to charge bills?
Objection.
Sustained.
Were you prepared to break out the window to discover information of me, a man?
No.
You was not prepared, but you testified you were going to break out the window.
I was prepared to break out the window in order to take you into custody after advising that you were under arrest. Yes.
Okay. Is breaking out a window considered an act of violence?
Let's clear something up. When cops break a car window, it's not violence. It's a legal action, especially when someone's refusing to cooperate. But this guy, in true sovereign citizen style, spends 10 minutes whining about his rights, as if traffic laws are optional. His over-the-top screen edits? Comedy gold. It's like he thinks flashy text will win the case. Sadly for him, the courtroom isn't TikTok. When the judge doesn't buy into his conspiracy-fueled logic, he's genuinely baffled. Pro tip. If you want your argument taken seriously, maybe don't sound like you're auditioning for a YouTube expose.
Okay, did you have a warrant?
No, I did not.
Okay. Can there be an arrest without due process of law?
I don't understand your question.
Is it a danger to make an arrest without understanding the law?
Your Honor, I guess the state is objecting to the line of questioning on that particular ground. We discussed I think we discussed this partially in motion.
Yeah, sustained.
What was your cause of action?
Objection.
Sustained.
Do you need a cause of action to make an arrest?
Objection.
Rephrase your question.
Is a cause of action an essential component to authorize an arrest?
And I guess I'm objecting. I don't really understand.
Great, sustained. I understand the question.
Did you have probable cause?
Yes.
Probable cause? And could you please let us know what that was?
I made a request of you when I stopped you for the 2 infractions to provide your driver's license, registration certificate for your vehicle, and your proof of vehicle insurance, liability insurance, and you failed to provide any of those items or identify yourself.
And that gives probable cause.
Yes.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Are police powers in general delegated to the police by consent of we the people based on the promise not to violate the Constitution?
I'm not exactly sure how to answer that question.
You understand that you no longer have any police power if you violate the Constitution.
Now, either this criminal is completely stupid or he knows. I wonder which one could it be?
With respect to the Constitution, I'm not exactly sure how to answer that question.
You are operating under your oath. You testified from the beginning. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
And your oath is to the Constitution. Is that correct?
Your Honor, I would object. Your Honor, I fail to see the relevance. He's under oath here. He's sworn to tell the truth. I fail to see how this.
Sustained. You can move on, Mr. Hayward.
Would you look at that? They really don't want to answer that question, do they? Move on.
This voiceover he added? Hilarious. It's like a dramatic documentary on why the government is allegedly out to get him, all because of a traffic stop. The guy is convinced he's been targeted by some massive scheme, as if asking a cop about the Constitution will magically cancel all charges. It's giving delusion. And honestly, if he spent half as much time forming a real legal defense as he does parroting phrases from TikTok lawyers, he might have had a shot.
You understand that violating your oath of office contract immediately strips you of any police powers.
Yes.
Well, Mr. Mike, I would like to thank you for your confession. We now have on the record that you knew that you didn't have any police power from the beginning, and ignorance of the law is no excuse, especially for an officer of the law.
Okay. This is a traffic stop, correct?
Correct.
The word traffic is defined as commerce, and
I would object, Your Honor.
Overall, I'll let Mr. Hayward finish the question.
according to your testimony, your actions were based on traffic law, which includes license plates and all the documents that the person is legally required to provide, and this is all based on traffic law. Is that correct?
Yes.
And the traffic is defined as commerce.
So I guess, Your Honor, that's where I would.
Okay. Is traffic defined as commerce?
Your Honor, the defendant's requesting that this fact witness define the law. I just don't see how that's.
Objects. I'm just asking that he define his understanding of the law, because this is the whole basis. He's holding us up at a gunpoint. He needs to know what he's doing.
Mr. Morrell, if Sergeant Morrell can answer the question as to what he believes traffic to be, I'll let him do that. But if you can answer that question.
For me, traffic would be the vehicles that are moving upon our roadways in the state.
Okay, do you understand that your definition of traffic is a layman's definition and not the legal definition of traffic?
No.
So do you understand that you're upholding a legal definition of traffic while enforcing it based upon a layman's understanding of traffic? At gunpoint.
Objection.
Sustained. Next question.
You understand that your understanding of traffic is incorrect based on a legal standard that you are enforcing at gunpoint.
Your Honor, the state's just merely requesting that he take up the gunpoint. I don't see how that the attempt to testify here.
Rephrase your question, Mr. Haywood.
Do you realize that your understanding of traffic is incorrect based on the legal definition while you're upholding legal laws?
No, I do not realize that.
Okay. You are enforcing traffic law without understanding the definition of traffic in its legal context.
I do not believe so, no.
Okay. But you just admitted that you don't know the legal definition of traffic.
I'm not aware of the legal definition of traffic.
Okay.
So here's his big courtroom gotcha. He gets an officer to admit they don't know the exact dictionary definition of traffic. And he celebrates like he just won a legal Oscar. But come on, this isn't spelling bee. He's tried to twist words like that's going to undo a traffic stop. Even the judge looks like he's holding back a laugh. Real talk. If you think word games are a legal strategy, maybe law school isn't in your future.
So then any resistance to a legal traffic definition enforced by you would be out of line because you're operating on ignorance.
I don't believe that's the case.
But you just confessed to it being the case. You don't know the legal definition of traffic. Is that correct? You just testified to that.
Yes, I do not know the legal definition of traffic.
And you're enforcing a traffic law based on a foundation of ignorance of legality of the traffic definition.
I was enforcing the traffic law in the state of Washington, which I have done for the last 30 plus years.
With never knowing the legal definition of traffic.
I guess that would be the case.
And this legal traffic documentation is based on the non-legal traffic understanding. Is that correct?
Your Honor, objection.
Rephrase the question. Sustained.
This finding made the stop because of safety and to obtain traffic documentation. That's based on the understanding of the layman's understanding of traffic and not the actual legal definition of traffic, which is what's used in courts and is the law.
I made the traffic stop based on a speed violation and a license or registration violation.
Based on your current understanding of traffic, which is not the legal one, right?
Based on my understanding of the laws in the state of Washington, yes.
Well, let's talk about specifically the meaning of traffic, because the whole law of the laws that you're using revolve around the understanding of the word traffic.
In the state of Washington, you're required to obey the speed limits, and you're also required to have your vehicle registered and have that plate displayed. And that was what the basis of my traffic stop was.
And that's based on traffic law, right?
Correct.
Of which you don't know the understanding or the meaning of traffic.
I do not know the exact definitions of those things. No, I do not. I could not give them back to you verbatim.
Okay, so you were enforcing based on one principle, which is ignorance, but you were enforcing based on a legal definition. But you were presenting it in a layman's definition.
I do not believe that I was enforcing out of ignorance. No, that would not be accurate.
Okay, but you confess that you don't know the legal definition.
I do not know. I cannot sit here and tell you the legal definition. No.
Can you please identify the victim of this crime?
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained.
An arrest is an act of force. Is that correct?
It can be, yes.
I need somebody against their will is an act of force. Is that correct?
Yes, it can be.
And if done without the authority of law, that would be an act of kidnapping. Is that correct?
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained.
Okay, but if that force is used without the authority of law, it is a crime. Is that correct?
Yes.
You testified that law enforcement should be held to the highest standards following the law. Do you recall that?
Yes.
Is it possible, without knowing the legal meanings of words backed by threats of violence, that you could be a danger to society without knowing the definitions?
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained.
We'll change that to be a little more understandable. By enforcing laws containing words you do not know the meaning of makes you a danger to society. Is that correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
Watching this guy try to build a defense is like witnessing brain cells wave white flags. It's honestly painful. He's quoting random laws like incantations, convinced they'll cast some legal protection spell. You can almost hear his childhood coach yelling, "Good effort," in the background. But this isn't Little League. It's court. And this fantasy logic routine he's running, it belongs in a subreddit, not a courtroom. Sovereign citizens really do believe Google is their law degree. Maybe it's time to give them an island and see how long their pretend government lasts.
True or false? If we remove you, the crime goes away.
Objection.
Sustained.
True or false? If we keep you in the story, the crime stays complete with the victim.
Objection.
Sustained.
True or false? You are an essential component for a crime that I'm accused of to exist.
Objection.
Sustained.
You were prepared to smash out the window because I didn't pay the plaintiff money. Is that correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
You were prepared to bust out the window and violently destroy my property because you wanted me to pay the plaintiff more money.
Objection.
Sustained. Move on from this line of questioning.
The basis of this crime is essentially I'm not doing anything, which requires you to do everything. Is that correct?
I don't understand your question. I'm sorry.
Basically, the crime says I willfully did something.
Your Honor, the state's objecting to a discussion about the law. We're here at this point to discuss the facts, so.
Well, I'll overrule the objection, Mr. Haywood, if you want to ask if you want to rephrase the question as to the crime charged here today.
The crime that I'm being charged with today physically requires me to do what? To commit a crime.
When I made the traffic stop, the person that I make the traffic stop of is required to provide me with their driver's license or form of ID, identify themselves basically, and then provide their vehicle registration certificate and their proof of liability insurance.
Okay, you just testified to a person. Did you have any evidence to support the belief that I was a person?
Objection.
Sustained.
You testified that I'm a man. You didn't say this applies to a man.
Objection.
Sustained.
So basically, you confess that I do nothing and I'm accused of a crime.
By failing to provide the information to me, yes, you are committing a crime.
Okay, so doing nothing is committing a crime. Because that's basically just doing nothing.
In that case, yes.
Okay. Since all I have to do is nothing, that requires you to do everything. Is that correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
Okay, true or false? I did nothing, you did everything, and I'm the one committing a criminal act. Is that correct?
Rephrase your question or ask it again, please.
Okay, true or false? I did nothing, you did everything, and I am the one committing the criminal act. Is that correct?
I guess, Your Honor, the state, in thinking about this question, I mean, it's a compound question. We have, I think there are parts there that have been objected and have been sustained, parts that have been overruled, and now it's kind of just being thrown into one big question.
Sustained, you can rephrase your question.
Okay, true or false? For this crime to exist requires me to do nothing and for you to do everything.
Your Honor,
Sustained, rephrase your question and move on.
And this is short, so true or false? All I have to do to be accused of being a criminal, taken all the way to the jury, is absolutely nothing. Is that true or false?
objection.
Sustained.
Okay, we've already established that I've done nothing. Is that correct?
I wouldn't say that's correct. I would say that you did not provide the required information that I asked you to.
Okay, so I did nothing. Is that correct?
Well, that is actually doing something. You made a choice not to.
So again, we're back to doing nothing. Is that correct?
Your Honor, objection.
Move on. Sustained.
The identification that Trooper Sherman showed you, that's exhibit, that's the one with the ID on it, that's part of the record.
Objection. I guess I don't. Which ID are we referring to? I don't.
The problem with this ID is it proves I'm outside of their jurisdiction, and they know that, and they can't have this ID come onto the record or the whole case is gone.
Well, Your Honor, this hasn't been admitted. There's been no testimony about this identification.
You want to ask? Sorry, Merle, about that?
Yes, this is the picture that Trooper Sherman showed you as my identity. It's kind of big.
Can I see that, please?
Now, if Mike Merrill was telling the truth, he would have said he never got any ID at that point.
No, this
No?
wasn't provided to me. No,
What ID did Trooper Sherman show you?
there was no ID that he showed me on that stop.
Well, how did he have my information to give to you?
He visually identified you, and he was able to go back in his information from his prior traffic stop with you and confirm who you were.
Okay, because I got it on video of him telling you, here's his.
Objection, Your Honor.
And now, here is the video they would not allow in court. They did not want anybody, especially a jury, to see.
Here's this form of ID that I took a picture of.
Excuse me? Excuse me, what was that again?
Here's this form of ID that I took a picture of.
Mike, what are you doing? You agree law enforcement should be held to the highest standard, but you broke the law before you claim to uphold the law. And you come into court and swear to tell the truth, and then you lie.
Sustained for now.
Okay. So at this point in time, your identification is based on hearsay.
The identification.
Objection, sorry.
Sustained.
How were you able to confirm that you, did I give you anything saying that I'm this person or I'm that?
Your Honor, I guess state's objecting this is beyond the scope of,
I'll overrule. You can answer that question. Sorry.
You never provided me with, you verbally identified yourself or provided me with any identification as to who you were.
Okay. So then the basis of your understanding of who you were working with was based on hearsay.
objection.
This guy seriously believes handing over a fake American national ID counts as proper identification. That's like showing your library card at airport security and expecting a VIP pass. He's so proud, like he just pulled a power move. But let's be real, printing a SpongeBob ID would probably carry more legal weight. It's clear he's deep into the sovereign citizen echo chamber, and unless someone steps in with a serious reality check, he's about one meme away from citing Cartoon Network law.
Yes.
It was based on Trooper Sherman's identification of you from his prior contact with you.
This is hearsay.
It was firsthand information from Trooper Sherman.
Which is hearsay. To you.
Your Honor, I would object. I mean, there's a legal definition.
Right.
Sustained.
So he didn't show you any form of ID that he previously took a picture of?
Well, you see now Mike Merrill knows that there is video evidence and proof that he was shown that ID. And his story changes now, as you can watch and see. Ladies and gentlemen, I hereby present to you Kidnap County Sergeant Mike Merrill, getting ready to lie in a court and not do a very good job at it and fly by the seat of his pants. Here we go.
I don't remember. There was no actual government issued identification that I was ever provided.
No government issued identification.
No.
So there was some other kind of identification.
I don't remember exactly what he said that he had contacted you, and I don't remember if it was what sort of paper he had or what he had printed out on his MCT, but there was never any ID that I was provided.
I can go furnish a record for you. Here's his form of ID that I took a picture of.
Okay, but you just mentioned it wasn't a state ID, so
Your Honor, I guess now that we've gone through several questions objecting as to relevance.
Sustained.
okay. So the state has provided discovery video.
Objection.
Question. That was quick. The state has provided discovery video that has Trooper Sherman on it telling.
Objection.
Mike Merrill, here's the ID.
Your Honor, he's attempting to testify to something that's not currently known.
Sustained.
Here's his form of ID that I took a picture of.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, if you are feeling a slight sensation of the urge to vomit, you are not alone. What do these criminal foreign agents really think is going on? Well, let's find out.
This whole case plays out like a mashup between a horror film and a conspiracy documentary, with his creepy voiceover narrating each moment like he's exposing Area 51. It's both disturbing and kind of sad. Sovereign citizens have gone from fringe oddities to online personalities who genuinely think yelling, "I don't consent," rewrites the Constitution. Newsflash, judges aren't magical beings bound by internet chants. And as much as this guy tries to flex his legal knowledge, he ends up sounding more like a rejected YouTube script. Let me know what you think in the comments. Is he totally lost or just another YouTube law scholar with a playlist full of bad advice?